January 4th, 1945. Luxembourg. Inside a cold stone headquarters, General George S. Patton makes a decision that would bury a possible American war crime for decades. If he had chosen differently, his own soldiers could have faced execution. Nazi propaganda would have exploded across Europe, and Patton's own legend might have shattered completely. So, what did the man they called Old Blood and Guts do when he learned that his troops had executed 60 captured SS prisoners in cold blood? Today, we are going to open the file that was meant to disappear. This is not a story about simple right and wrong. This is a story about decisions made in a place where normal rules no longer apply. Early January 1945. The Ardennes. Patton's Third Army had just done what many believed was impossible. It turned its entire front and broke through to Bastogne on December 26th, relieving thousands of surrounded American troops. But this victory came at a heavy cost. Temperatures dropped below -15 degrees Celsius. Weapons froze solid. Engines failed. Men suffered frostbite, exhaustion, and constant fear. The battlefield was not just a place of combat anymore. It was a place where physical limits were pushed to the edge, and where psychological pressure began to break discipline. For Patton, the report from the village of Chenogne was not just another document. It was a warning. Because the United States was not only fighting to win the war, it was fighting to prove something, to prove that it was different, that it followed rules, that it represented order in a world collapsing into chaos. And now, those principles were under threat from inside his own army. Patton understood war better than most commanders, but even he knew there was a line, a difference between killing in battle and executing men who had already surrendered. What should a commander do when law and survival begin to collide? To understand what happened next, you have to go back just a few weeks. December 17th, 1944. Near Malmedy, Belgium, units of the Waffen-SS under Joachim Peiper captured American soldiers from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. They surrendered. They were disarmed. They were standing in the snow, and then they were shot. More than 80 American prisoners were killed. Some died instantly. Others were wounded and finished off at close range. A few survived by pretending to be dead, lying in frozen blood for hours before escaping. When those survivors reached American lines, the story spread like fire. It did not stay in briefing rooms. It moved through every unit, every trench, every convoy. From that moment, the perception of the Waffen-SS changed completely. They were no longer seen as soldiers. They were seen as something else, something outside the rules of war. Patton later addressed his officers. This is not war between soldiers. This is a fight against those who have forgotten what it means to be human. There was no official order to take no prisoners, but the meaning was understood. War does not only redraw maps, it changes the minds of the men who fight it. January 1st, 1945, Chenogne, Belgium. After heavy fighting, American forces secured the village. German soldiers began to surrender. Among them were members of the Waffen-SS. They were disarmed. They raised their hands. They were no longer a threat. But according to later testimonies, they were not sent to the rear. They were gathered, and then they were shot. Estimates range from 50 to 60 men. The killing did not take long. Within minutes, the snow was covered with bodies. When investigators arrived days later, they found evidence that suggested something very clear. This was not the chaos of battle. This was an execution, and that changed everything. Because war has rules, and once those rules are broken, the consequences do not stay on the battlefield. The most disturbing part of Chenogne is not only the violence, It is how quickly the line between soldier and executioner can disappear. If you value deep historical breakdowns like this, consider subscribing. January 4th, the report reaches Patton. Now the decision is his. If he orders a full investigation, soldiers could face court-martial, officers could lose command, units could be pulled from the front at a critical moment in the war. At the same time, the consequences go far beyond the battlefield. A public trial would give Nazi Germany a powerful propaganda weapon. It would allow them to say, the Americans are no different, and it could damage the image the United States had built throughout the war. Patton faced a choice, justice or victory. He chose. The case was not pursued publicly. No major trial followed. The incident disappeared into silence. One line often associated with Patton's thinking reflects that moment. We must keep this quiet. It would only hurt morale. This was not a decision between right and wrong. It was a decision between control and collapse. Was this necessary leadership, or the moment discipline gave way to survival? No soldier was publicly punished. The Third Army continued its advance into Germany. Operational success was preserved, but something else was left behind. A question, a doubt, a moral weight that history never fully resolved. General Omar Bradley later reflected, "War is a dirty business. Sometimes you win it by becoming just as dirty as your enemy." Chenogne is not just a battlefield incident. It is a reminder that even the clearest heroes face decisions that do not have clean answers. Patton preserved his army, but he may have buried a truth that would only surface decades later. History remembers him as brilliant, but stories like this remind us victory does not erase complexity, because in war, the hardest question is not how to win. It is what you are willing to become in order to achieve it. What do you think? Did Patton make the only possible choice in the middle of a brutal winter campaign? Or did burying Chenogne cross a line that no commander should ever cross? And when justice and survival collide in war, which one should matter more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story of true historical justice. Thank you for watching. Respect the fallen, honor the veterans, and never forget history. We will see you in the next video.